Okay. Well, in the interest of being timely, I'll go ahead and kick things off. My name is Rachel Massey. I'm the Executive Director of the UNO Alumni Association. Thank you all for joining us tonight for a continuation of our virtual Meet Us At series. Tonight, we're welcoming back Chef Mark Springfloat, one of the chef instructors at the University of New Orleans, who has been so graciously hosting us and teaching us things about wine, interesting food, and more. Former executive chef at a Chapelaya here in New Orleans. We are going to be experiencing one of Chef Mark's signature dishes tonight. It's a Crabcake Benedict with hollandaise and asparagus on the side, and we're really excited to get going. We hope you're either cooking along or going to use this to cook later, and we'll be sending a follow-up after the webinar with all of the ingredients in case you didn't see it on our posts. If you'd like to ask questions during the course of the webinar, please use the chat function. Chef's lovely assistant, Zoe, will be fielding questions as we go along. Hey, Chef. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you after the demo. Okay, take care.
All right, well, here we go. We're going to make Crabcakes Benedict today. It says was on the menu at a Chapelaya. It's a wonderful spin on a classic. For those of you playing along at home, I'm going to do my best to keep to my order of preparation. I have my notes in front of me here. What you want to do first off, if you haven't done so already, get your pots of water on, one for the blanching of the asparagus, one for poaching of the eggs. For the one for the asparagus, we're going to add a healthy amount of salt to it. So we'll go ahead and get those start heating up. Right, so what we're going to do first is get our butter on to clarify. Now, when you clarify butter, this is also called drawn butter, drawn butter. When you go and get lobster or serve with that little bit of drawn butter, that's clarified butter. What it is just the pure fat. So we're going to cook off all the water and milk solids. So the easiest way to do this, and we want to yield about a cup. So we're going to take a pound here. And you can do the whole pound if you want, and just keep the clarified butter to use for sauteing and whatever else. It'll last in the refrigerator for a while. I'm going to do about 3/4 of a pound of butter, and just put it right in the pot, little saucepan. Turn the fire on, and what we're going to do is bring this to a boil. And as it comes to a boil, the water will evaporate, and then the milk solids will settle down to the bottom, and you have pure clarified butter. I always like to do this first in case you burn it. If you burn it, you got to start over. This can also be done the day before and reheated. A lot of this dish can be done the day before. Pretty much everything but the hollandaise can be prepped the day before, and then you can just throw it together. Okay, so while our butter melts, let's tend to our crab meat. All right, so this is Louisiana jumbo lump crab meat. This is one of my favorite things in the world right here. I love this stuff. All right, nice, beautiful lumps of crab that you pay a premium for. So what you want to do with this stuff, come on over here. Let's get rid of the butter. It's usually pretty clean. What you want to do is just pick through, and notice I'm not destroying all the lumps. I'm just kind of feeling everything. Make sure that there's no shell on it. There's nothing worse than biting into a crab cake and getting a mouthful of shell. So you get some people that have picked crab their entire life. For things like that, that's a little one of the dead man's fingers. That's not necessarily good eats. Here's a little piece of shell. And you can really just feel the shell more so than see it. It likes to hide in some of these lumps. There's a little piece there. So we do want to do this quickly. Now, like I said, this is jumbo lump. If you wanted to use a back fin or a lump or even claw or some sort of combination of the two. Let's see if you're feeding more people and you need to double this recipe. You can always cut in some claw meat with it, and that'll lower the price point. This is the most expensive way to do crab meat here. Really, if you just kind of more or less touch every piece, you'll find any shell that's in there, and there's generally not a lot. You know, we want to maintain, look at that beautiful lump. I can't pick crab like that. There's another shell. I know this is kind of the mundane, boring part. I used to have people that would do this for me. Here our butter melting over there. When you cook, you should always be using all of your senses. Sense of smell, sense of sight, sense of taste, obviously, touch, and hearing. I had a French classical teacher, chef in culinary school, who said you should be able to walk past an oven and listen and hear how fast that meat is roasting in the oven. A pretty good skill. All right, almost done. I know this is like akin to watching paint dry. I promise you, this is the most boring part of tonight's show. All right. Almost out. The other key while picking through this crab meat is not to eat it all while you pick through it. Like I said, all in all, this was pretty clean. Maybe about 10 little pieces of shell and one little gill. All right, what's next? All right, next on my list is putting the water on to boil and the water on to get hot for poaching. We've already done that. So you can see our butter. We're starting to come to a boil here. You know, butter is an emulsion of milk solid, water, and pure fat. And all we want for this is the pure fat. All right. I wanted poaching eggs. Okay, so now we're going to do our knife work real quick. We'll start with our onion. If you remember from shrimp and grits, an onion grows in the ground this way and comes out of the ground this way. We're going to use it to our advantage. Take off that end, trim the root end slightly, cut it in half. Now we have flat surfaces to work with. Much safer. Much less likely to cut yourself. Again. Okay. While I'm dicing this onion, you notice I don't quite go all the way through. I'm stopping right before the root end, and the whole onion's connected right down here. So it makes it a whole lot easier to work with. So I can take a couple little cuts. So, dice. I may have done this once or twice. onion. Now we're going to move on to the bell pepper. You can do whatever kind of bell pepper you like, whatever flavor, color, whatever floats your boat. At the restaurant, I did red, yellow, and green, but I was also making 10-pound batches of crab cakes at the time. So I like a little bit of color, so we're going to go red and green in this one. I don't think I'm going to use all these. Come down the side. Clean them up just a little bit. Same with the green. Our butter sounds angry. You can see this guy is just boiling away over here, though, evaporating off all the water. Now, the better the butter, the less water you're going to have in it, or fat content. So now what we're going to do is make this into a julienne. And then a brunoise. So as I cut, I'm kind of using my hand like this. I've got my pinky and my thumb holding my ingredients together, my bell peppers, and I'm using these fingers as a guide. The tips are bent in, and I'm just kind of using that as a guide. You do it like that, you're not going to cut yourself. You get fingers outside, you end up missing a piece of finger like I am. And this is definitely more than we're going to need. All right, everybody with me so far?
Someone said it's just one bell pepper. Okay.
Sure, yeah, and you're going to see when we get into this, it's kind of an eyeball game sometimes. You know, the problem with saying like one bell pepper, that was a pretty big bell pepper, or, you know, sometimes a bell pepper is about the size of a baseball. So it's kind of a judgment. How much do you want? Here's what we're looking like in here. You know, typically about half onion, half bell pepper. Here, if we look at our butter, we're almost there. Once it starts sizzling, once it stops sizzling, there's kind of a fine line. You want to cut it off before the milk solids start to burn. All right, so I think next we are sauteing our vegetables, right? Yep. Where are we? Hi. All right. We have a little skillet. Gonna put a little heat on it. You always want to heat your skillet first, right? Hot pan, cold oil, then your ingredients. And here, what do I hear? Almost nothing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off. Beautiful. All right, so now we're gonna heat up our skillet, saute our onion and pepper. All right. We'll do oil with this. We'll do oil and a little butter. All right. Now that we have our skillet hot, we're going to get our fat hot, and then we're going to add our ingredients, our peppers. And the important thing when working with butter is not to burn it. Burned butter is bitter. It's not so good. Look at that. That looks about perfect. All right. Once the butter starts foaming, you know you're good and hot. Merge. That's pretty sloppy. All right, I'm just going to let it cook. And if you can't do that flipping thing, don't worry about it. Get yourself a little heat-tempered rubber spatula. And for the most part, you just want it to cook. All right? Floppy knife look. All right, and to this, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. It's always a good idea to add some salt whenever you're sweating down onions. Brings out some of the sulfite. And if you want to learn how to do a little flippy thing, get a skillet, put a piece of bread in it. Practice with the piece of bread. Once you get that down, move your way up to some rice or some dried beans, and then graduate to hot food. It's no fun cleaning this off the floor, I can tell you that for sure. All right. So that's what your butter should look like. Now we do want to keep this hot. Ideally, when we make our hollandaise, we want our butter at about 140 degrees. What do we do after this? Blanching. Okay, we're not looking to cook this all the way through. We just kind of want to soften it up, get some of that raw flavor out of there. In the meantime, our crab, we're going to stick in the refrigerator to keep that cold. If you want, maybe you have a little wine. You can hit a little wine in there. It just happens to be a glass of wine in there here. Yeah, maybe we'll go ahead and hit this. And I'm doing my best to stick to my recipe, I promise. But, you know, sometimes you improvise a little bit. Recipes are guidelines. Don't be totally bound to them. Learn how to cook. Learn the principles. Use your judgment. Right. So see how our onions now are just starting to get a little translucent.
What did you just add to these?
This little Creole seasoning. They're just starting to soften up, right? So I should be left-handed for this. Now, if we threw this in the crab meat and aioli or mayonnaise, whatever you're using, it would not be fun. It would break. The heat from the peppers and onions would break the emulsion of the mayonnaise. So what we're going to do is spread this out on a pan right quick. And again, these crab cakes, if you want to do brunch for the family or guest or whatnot, you can do all this the night before. Like make the crab cakes 100% everything. I'm going to put it in the freezer. Let that cool down. All right. What's next? Aioli. Okay, so aioli is basically a garlicky mayonnaise. You can use mayonnaise in your crab cakes with no problem. I like the aioli because to me, mayonnaise is great on a sandwich, but it always tastes like white vinegar. I always taste white vinegar in the background. So I can control my flavors a little better this way. It's an emulsion between eggs and oil. An emulsion is when you take two ingredients that typically do not go together, mix together, i.e. Oil and water, which is basically what we're doing here, and making them unrecognizable. You can't tell that there's two different ingredients in there. There's one, like mayonnaise, butter. These are examples of perfect emulsions. So we're going to use egg yolk, right? What's the best way to separate an egg and an egg yolk? The white from the yolk. Whatever you do, don't go buy an egg separator. Here's my egg separator right here. Watch this. Just with my fingers. And that little piece, that's just the piece that attaches the yolk to the air sac. Oops. All right. Now, in a perfect world, you might save these egg whites and make a meringue or something fun like that, but we're not. Not today. All right, now to our egg yolks, we're going to add, what have in there, a garlic clove. So just a little bit, and this can be adjusted to personal taste. If you want less garlic, use less garlic. If you want more garlic, use more garlic. Now this sauce is super easy, and I will tell you, there's not much better on a French fry than this sauce. All you people using ketchup, I'm looking at you. The aioli is going to be much better on a French fry.
How many eggs did you just use?
I use 2 egg yolks for about a cup of oil. Each egg yolk will emulsify, I think, up to 9 ounces of fat, of oil, but it's definitely more than we need. All right, so I want to make a paste out of this. So what we're going to do, I've already peeled the garlic. I'm going to take the side of my knife in my hand. I'm going to give it a little hit, right? And I'm gonna, because we don't want chunks, right? We just want the garlic flavor. I'm gonna run my knife through here a few times. And then, this is a great trick. If I make meatballs or lots of things with garlic where I don't want chunks, I'm gonna add a little kosher salt. And I always use kosher salt in the kitchen, never that iodized table salt. All right, we're gonna take our knife, just kind of work it back and forth. Now you can also do this in a mortar and a pestle. I don't have one, but I have a knife and a cutting board. And we're going to turn this into a paste. There's our garlic paste. This goes in with our egg yolk. That was one kind of medium-ish garlic clove. And again, you can also do this with roasted garlic. I've done this many times with roasted garlic. Now I do have to double check what I put in my recipe for this. Aioli is one of those things. I just make it, you know? So yeah, a little Dijon salt, lemon juice. Do about half a lemon. And again, notice here's my lemon seed strainer. You can put this through a screen or whatever. My strainer doesn't work that well, obviously. And a little, what do I have in here? A half teaspoon of Dijon mustard. All right. Okay, so now what we're going to do is mix this all together. So my pinch of salt in the recipe is in with the garlic, and we'll check it if we add for salt. All right, so what we're going to do is emulsify our oil into our egg yolk mixture. I'm going to make a little ring here. Now, if you have somebody in the kitchen helping you, it's great when you have them hold the bowl. We're going to do this again with hollandaise. It's almost like a cold hollandaise for me. I'm going to take my oil, and just really slowly now you can make this in a blender as well. At the restaurant, if I'm making a lot of this, I'll make it in a blender. If it starts to get too thick on you, just add a little bit of water. Water will thin any emulsion. And once you build your emulsion, you can start working the oil in a little bit faster.
About how much oil do you use?
About that much. I don't know. I think I have a cup in the recipe. I just kind of eyeball this stuff out, and I'm also going by color. For this, I'd probably say for those 2 egg yolks, probably about 2 cups of oil. What did I put in here? I'll put a cup in here. That's easily a cup of oil I think I have in there. And ignore that bottle. That was actually canola oil. And I'm going to finish with a little bit of olive oil. And you can make this 100% with canola.
Do you not want to use just olive oil?
It depends on the flavor profile you want at the end. I usually want a little more neutral of a flavor, especially for like the crab cakes, but you could totally just use olive oil. That'd probably be really good on French fries. Yep. All right, let's give it a taste. Think just a couple of drops. Now, I'm just adding a little more water to thicken the, I mean, not water, oil to thicken the consistency. All right, so there's aioli. Never buy mayonnaise again. Do a side-by-side taste with them. That'll tell you. What's next? Okay, so now we're going to blanch our asparagus. We already have our pot of water going. We're going to turn this up and get to a full boil. There's a decent amount of salt in this water. The blanching helps sets the color, starts the cooking, and makes pickup a lot easier. If you haven't done so already, you want to get a bowl of ice. Through the magic of TV, I already have. I guess this is the TV. I always tell my cooks, before you blanch, before anything goes in that hot water, I better see your ice. All right, so now let's take our asparagus. Now, classically, how you would do an asparagus, let's get this crappy looking one here, is just kind of bend them. That's not a great asparagus. And where they break, that's where you would cut them to serve. But for uniformity, I like to have them all the same size. For blanching purposes, we're going to leave our rubber bands on. It makes them easier to handle. And we're going to trim them about like so. Now these stems, you can make soup out of or whatever you like. They usually end up in the compost pile here. And we're at a full boil here with our water. We'll drop our asparagus in. In about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. We'll check our veg. And amazingly, in the time it took us to make the aioli, our vegetables are done.
Someone said, did we use red wine vinegar?
No, that'll be for the hollandaise. Now you can, I typically put a little vinegar in here. Just another taste. Yeah, mayonnaise has white vinegar. I use the lemon juice for my acid in this. And I think I am going to throw just a pinch of vinegar in it. This one's one of my go-to vinegars, Marucan Gourmet Seasoned Rice Wine Vinegar. You can pick it up. You're starting to see this in more grocery stores now. I think even Dornex sells it. They sell the small bottle. But this is a little salty, a little sweet, a little lower in acidity. It's a wonderful vinegar. And this will set up in the refrigerator.
Any substitutes for red wine vinegar for the hollandaise?
Sure, whatever vinegar. I wouldn't use a balsamic. White vinegar will be fine. Extra lemon juice. You don't have to have it if you don't. If you don't worry about it. And obviously, the thicker the asparagus, the longer the blanch. All right, so now that we're blanched, we're going to take them out right into our ice water. We're going to turn this pot back on low because we're going to use it as our double boiler for our hollandaise. All right, we'll just let those sit for a minute or two. And we'll go back to our crab cakes. Okay, so here we are with the crab meat. We're going to take and again, this is one of those things, it's kind of a judgment call, right, as to how much you want to use. And I have found, by screwing things up, that put in a little bit at a time. It's really easy to add more, but it's really hard to take it out once it's in there. All right, and while doing this, I'm being very careful not to break up my crab. And you know what? I'm so good, I cut the perfect amount of peppers and onions. Look at that, perfect amount. It's really, really, really hard being this perfect. I gotta tell you, a lot of pressure. If y'all could only see the look on my daughter's face right now. Right, Zoe?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so before we get into this, let's get our asparagus out of here, okay? So now they're cool. What we really want to do is take these rubber bands off, or they'll leave indentations all along it, and that we don't want. Let's get a bowl. Just kind of stand them up, let them drain, and we'll be back for you in a little bit. Okay, so now here we are with our crab cakes. See, I could eat this already. Actually, I could just eat the bucket of crab meat. But what we want to do, what else do we have in our crab cake recipe? Let's follow our recipe, right? All right, what do we have? A ½ teaspoon of crystal sauce. You can use whatever hot sauce you like. I like this one because it's good, right? Tabasco is a little too much, a little too hot to vinegar ratio. I like something that's a little milder, a little more flavor. So we're going to carefully measure a ½ teaspoon. Right, just like that. Now, what else? A tablespoon of Creole seasoning. Again, carefully measured. All right. You know, I'm always of the opinion that crab cakes should taste like crab. So I want that as my main ingredients. That's what's going to that's what you want. You want crab cakes. I don't want to taste breadcrumb. I don't want to taste mayonnaise. I don't want to taste the oil they were fried in. I just want to taste crab. Here's something I've never done before. Ready? I'm going to add a little lemon zest to this crab cake. Why? Because I think it'll be good. And you certainly don't have to do this. My handy dandy little microplaner here. If you don't have one of these, go out and buy one. As soon as this webinar is over, go buy one. You'll thank me later. It's like 20 bucks at Care Restaurant Supply for a good one, but do buy a good one. All right, what else? Do I have lemon juice in here? Everybody go grab a pencil. Pencil in this recipe, 1 lemon zest, juice of 1/2 lemon. You know, we're really cooking here. All right, now we're going to add some of our aioli. And as a binder, we're going to use a Japanese breadcrumb. That was about a ½ cup. So if you're not using panko breadcrumbs, you need to be. But you certainly could use regular breadcrumbs, Italian breadcrumbs, whatever you like. Okay, and if y'all weren't here, here's how I'd really be doing this. These are your best tools in the kitchen. I mean, it's obviously not going to substitute a knife unless you're like Bruce Lee or something. But we're going to mix them with our hands. We want to get them to the point.
Why do you prefer the panko? What makes it special?
It's a bigger, flakier breadcrumb, crispier. It's airier, not as dense. So when you use things, I feel like they're a little looser than a densely packed traditional breadcrumb. If you look at them, they're wonderful, wonderful breadcrumbs. And these make the best chicken fingers too. Right, Zoe? My poor daughter grew up half in restaurants. A little bit more. And honestly, this aioli could be just a little bit thicker, or if it were refrigerated, I think we'd have a little better luck. This should work for us here. Now what we want to do is just kind of let these breadcrumbs soak up. I think this is going to work fine. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to put, actually we're going to taste these. For seasoning. Lemon zest, big plus. Now, you can eat it like this, or you can put it in the refrigerator, let it sit for about 15 minutes or so, and then form them. All right, what's next on the list? Now. All right, next up is the holidays, right? Anybody else playing along at home? Okay. Un momento. I don't have enough bowls. Let's do. Don't need a big bowl. So the next thing is hollandaise. Hollandaise, one of the French mother sauces. Admittedly, one of my least favorite things to make in a professional kitchen, but it's damn tasty. Now, hollandaise is considered a mother sauce because you can make several compound sauces from that. If you were to add a Creole sauce to it, fold in a Creole sauce with hollandaise, you have a sauce Chiron, which is something I love on soft shell crab. But orange is Maltese, I believe. Chef Mike is probably correcting me if I'm wrong out there somewhere. A Bernays reduction, a tarragon reduction. It's a fresh tarragon. Begats sauce Bernays, which is wonderful on steaks. But we're just going to do a straight up hollandaise. All right, let's see. And this recipe is pretty vetted. So again, we're going to start with egg yolks. Same routine. 3 egg yolks. What else do I have in my holidays here? All right. I have a tablespoon of white wine or water. It really doesn't matter which you use. I mean, after all, wine is like water that knows somebody. But it's, you know, wine is like 85% water. So we'll go ahead and add a little bit. This is actually a little sparkling wine from right outside of Champagne, France. All right, what else do we have? Now our red wine vinegar. Should have about a teaspoon. Seriously. All right, a few drops of crystal. Now, sometimes in the city, New Orleans, people like to creolize it and put a little Worcestershire in it. I'm more of a purist. Maybe half a lemon. All right, and a pinch of salt. So what we're going to do is we're going to cook our egg yolks basically here. And this is also a time you want to make sure your butter is warm. We're going for about 140 degrees. We are not there. So now, when we're doing this, what we want to do first, just kind of scramble everything together. Right. And we're going to go on what we call a double boiler. So I have a pot of water here, and I'm going to use the steam to cook my egg yolks because it'll cook it slower. When it comes to cooking egg yolks, it's all about time, right? And honestly, if I were doing this, y'all weren't here, I'd do something like this and go right on the burner and control my heat that way because I'm lazy, impatient, and I've done this too many times, but we'll do it the slow way. So how quickly the proteins in the egg coagulate are what's key here. Proteins in an egg coagulate around 165 degrees. And if you do it really fast, they get really tight, right? And if you do it really slow, you get these really long protein strands. And that's what we're looking for here, is long, silky, smooth. If they go really fast and get really tight, you have scrambled eggs. The same method, I'm still coming on and off the heat. And we're just looking for them to get thick. Be sure and scrape the sides down if you do this. Oh, I can see we're getting thick already. And it's hard. Actually, like doing like this, a small amount of hollandaise is much harder to make than a large amount. And I think there's enough heat left in the bowl that it's going to carry over. You see how we're kind of dropping ribbons now. My benchmark for this was always at the restaurant, if I could have it come off my whisk and make a figure 8 and it stays there for a minute or two, we know we're good. You can see the ribbons just lay on top of the egg. So now our Savion is done. Shut off our poaching pot and get our butter. I don't remember, did I salt that? I guess we'll find out. The eggs, not the butter. And just so you know, this is unsalted butter. I exclusively use unsalted butter. There's our pure that and our dirty pan. And now what we want to do, kind of similar to the, see, look at that. That's right where you want to be. That's perfect. Damn. Somebody did a great job. And modest too. So now, just like the aioli, we want to kind of drizzle this in real slow, especially at first. Now you could, these 3 yolks will easily do over a pound of butter. I typically, when I make hollandaise, I figure 3 yolks per pound of butter. And this one you cannot do ahead of time. This is, you want to do this close to the end as possible. That's why it's a good thing to have your crab cakes already made and formed out. Y'all should be able to smell this. It smells good. And again, when you start getting too thick, then it with a little water, or wine. I probably wouldn't use red wine for this. Oops, that's bad. Let's see. We're gonna add just a pinch of hot water to thin this. There we go.
Would you use a blender or an immersion blender?
Yes to blender, yes to mixer. Immersion, I don't know. It might be too powerful. I do like my immersion blender, but I've never made hollandaise with it. I'm afraid it would just be too much for it, but you can totally use a blender for this. You can Google blender hollandaise actually and get recipes. All right. So there's our hollandaise, and we just kind of want to put this in a warm spot. Now, I'm going to be poaching eggs soon, and of course I've simmered off half my egg poaching water. So we want to refill that pot. So this is just straight water at this point. We're going to add a little bit of vinegar to change the pH in just a few minutes. Okay, next we're forming our crab cakes, right? Yep. All right, yippers.
Somebody said theirs is pretty buttery liquid.
Pretty buttery liquid?
Yeah.
You might have broken it. So if it breaks, if it separates, so here we have eggs and oil, but it's one cohesive unit. If you see pools of fat in here, you kind of got to start over. What you can do is do 2 egg yolks real quick, cook them just a little bit, and then take your broken hollandaise and emulsify that very slowly into your new egg yolks, your new emulsion. It happens. I've broken many a hollandaise. Usually it happens when you go too fast or something's maybe too hot. You know, it's a fickle little sauce. Too hot, too cold, it doesn't like it. If it's too cold, it seizes up. If it's too hot, it breaks. All right. Back to our crab cakes. And we're back. Fresh out of the refrigerator. Here's our crab cakes. You can see the breadcrumbs have been able to soak up all the aioli. And I kind of, see, to me, I like that. Oh, it's a good crab cake. So if you want to be all perfect, what you can do is kind of divide these out beforehand. I'm going to show you a little trick. Okay, so we're going to cut it in half. 1, 2, half again, 3, 4. And now we know we need to get 2 out of each if we're doing 2 crab cakes per person, or you can do 1 big one. For some reason, I've always liked to do 2. So what I like to do is just kind of, I use like this. So you can do a ring mold for this. And I always think like a hockey puck. All right, so there's 1. And I know kind of, I make it look real easy. I've also done this hundreds of times, literally. Okay, there's 4. We're just going to stop there for now. Try that, make sure it's still good. It is. All right, what do we have left here, guys? Crab cakes, poached eggs, Spanish asparagus. All right. There's our big skillet. Get this heated up. Now we're also going to tend to our poaching liquid. And I'm going to turn my oven on warm, which I should have done earlier to keep my crab cakes warm. There we go. Now, when we cook our crab cakes, the thing to keep in mind is that everything's already cooked in it. So we're really just kind of heating them through all the way, which is all we're going to do in the skillet. Meanwhile, poaching eggs, we get our burner on, right? What does I have? Water. So about 1.5 quarts of water. Into that, we want to add a little vinegar, which I had measured out that I spilled earlier. I'll be right back. I have to get the vinegar. We're back. Okay, about a tablespoon. Again, carefully measured. And so this changes the pH of the water. And another thing it does is it sets the egg whites pretty much instantly when you do it this way. Now, some people do the whole swirl the water and drop 1 egg at a time, and that's great if you're doing 1 egg. I'm going to show you another way that works for me where you can do a whole lot of eggs. I used to have to poach 3 cases, I think, when I worked at Mr. B's every Sunday morning. 3 cases of eggs, probably about 20 pounds of hollandaise, which is probably why I hate to make hollandaise sauce. Alrighty. Waiting for a skillet to get hot. Notice when I'm seeing if my skillet's hot, I'm just going to use the back of my hand. That's you get a better feeling than the front, or you can do the old water trick that way. All right, now for our poaching, we want to keep it below a simmer. So we're looking at about 180 degrees-ish, something like that. And for our crab cakes, I like, and this is another reason why I love these panko breadcrumbs. It's so much better than the other ones. But the other ones will work fine. It's just different preference. I'm going to coat these in panko. Okay, just like that. Now you can saute these in whatever you like. I'm going to use a little canola oil. And for that, I'm going to add a little butter. Why butter? Butter tastes good.
How would this work with shrimp instead of crab meat?
Sure, you can do shrimp cake.
How
That'd
would
be
it
fun.
work?
What do you mean how?
How would it work?
How would it work?
Yeah.
It'd work like shrimp.
That's
It would, I mean, fine, you can just substitute shrimp where it says crab, use shrimp. And you can probably pretty much follow the same recipe. I would pre-cook the shrimp.
What was the mayo for?
Mayo, in case you don't want to use aioli. So, my crab cakes are just a little loose. But we're going to make it work. Now, the thing about cooking is all about timing, and at the end, things tend to come together real quick. Which is also why it comes in handy that we've already blanched our asparagus. All right. Turn the heat down just a little bit. Now, if I were doing this myself, I probably have all three things going on at the same time. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit since I finish my asparagus and poach my eggs and pick it all up at the same time. But we're going to slow it down here just a little bit. This is the skillet I'm going to use for my asparagus, and we're going to keep this real simple tonight. Now, at the restaurant, we pick up a lot of vegetables like this, especially something like asparagus. We can hang out. Some butter and a little water. We're not going to burn on this plate.
Happy birthday.
Dog. So I totally lost my train of thought. Just that. So I want to turn these guys very carefully. That's beautiful. That's a pretty probably mature. Okay. So now you can totally finish these on top of the stove. What I'm going to do here is pop them into the oven because when I'm staying warm. Don't look at my dirty oven. Okay. So this is for our asparagus. All right. Now let's talk about poaching eggs. I told you, like a lot of people do the swirling water method. I just crack them right out of the shell. But when you're first starting out at this, this is a little trick I like to call the easy way of doing this. All right, you're gonna get a coffee cup or a soup cup or whatever you have. We're gonna crack our egg into the coffee cup. All right, then we're gonna take our coffee cup, and our water's just a little fast here. Oops, wrong way. And we're gonna bring it down to the level of the water. Got it? We're just gonna pour it in. And that vinegar is gonna set that yolk, that white, and it's gonna curl up around it and make a little pillow. You know, and really all it does is it just takes a few times to, well, hi, James. It takes a few times to just to get used to it. I seem to have lost the asparagus. Oh yeah. So we're going to heat up our asparagus. Like I said, these are pretty much cooked, so we're just warming them. A little bit of butter, a little bit of water, a little bit of salt, a little bit of more water. Butter. Now, if you wanted to, you could grill these, but that's way outside. I'm not going outside. I'm staying right here. You could saute them just in a little butter, some shallot and some garlic, but this is very clean flavors. Like with the asparagus and this, I just kind of want them to complement things. I don't want them to overpower. Our eggs are semi-feet, beautiful. Poaching right along. So to me, the perfect poached egg, the whites are just set and the yolk is as runny as it can be. Some people like them a little harder. Some people I know like golf balls. You can tee off right off the crab cake. So if you're one of those that likes the yolk cooked all the way through, just cook them loud. If you're like me and you're right, you cook them a little less. I like a good runny yolk out here. All right. That's pretty much done, heated through. Now to check my eggs, I just kind of touch them. And I can feel that the white's still not quite set. You can almost see it right here a little bit too. So we're going to leave those in there just another minute or two. So, and you see this works just fine. I know, I saw that. Is that an eggshell? Yep. Camera crew, they're getting eggshells everywhere, I got to tell you. Rachel, what time did you say the cleanup crew was getting here today? You said you had some volunteers on the webinar. I get nothing.
Clean up food. We'd love to help. I'm on the ready.
All right, it must be like 6:30. Yeah, the dog's like, I got my dog here going, hey man, I'm supposed to eat now.
My dog is my best cleanup crew.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. Sir Louis.
Sir Louis. Does he do pots and pans too?
If they're meaty.
All right, well, we're almost ready to plate here. Let's clear off. That means something's done, right? Where are we gonna plate, Bugs? Right here? And I do normally work a whole lot here.
Only he can't see me. He can hear me if I turn off my mute.
Okay. All right. Now, you can plate these really however you like, but we are so done. All right, let's get to it. Okay. Chef tip. Put a little indentation in each crab cake, and it makes the egg stay put. One, two. Three. Four. Look at that beautiful hollandaise. That's a good sauce. Let's see. So then a little nappe. You can put as much or as little of the sauce as you like. Tongs are here. I'm sure that was a lovely angle. Now, let's see. Let's think about how I want to do this. You can cross these over however you like. Just get a few set up like this. Now, what I really like to do with these is put a little caviar right on top of those eggs right there. You get like another $10 for the dish at this point, right? But we don't have any caviar, sorry. What we can do, I wasn't given a caviar budget, but we'll do a little green onion. A little green onion and do another go-to. I liked a little smoked paprika garnish. You can always just hit this with a little Creole seasoning, whatever you like. All right. But that's pretty much it. My take on the Crabcake Benedict. Now, if you wanted to do these just classic style, you put these on top of a English muffin, saute a little spinach, put on top of the muffin, and then the egg. You have eggs Florentine. You still do the hollandaise. I had a dish where I did them on fried green tomatoes and topped them with jumbo lump crab meat after that. Egg sardou, famous New Orleans dish with artichoke bottoms, or just do classic Canadian bacon, English muffin, hollandaise, whatever you like. Have fun. Hell, I can do it. You can do it.
Chef, this was so awesome. And we're so hungry. But that said, something's come to our attention over the course of the last, hour that we weren't aware of. And so I'd like to lead us. And first of all, thank you. And thanks for everyone tuning in, but also happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it loud and clear, Grace.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening.
Hi, Mom.
Okay. Bye.
Any questions or anything?
Any questions?
I got a minute.
Yeah, we'll do a follow-up with the recipe, and obviously the video will be posted online. So if you need to go back to get more tips, which I do, although there were a few things that I was like, oh yeah, the vegetables and then the cookie sheet. I mean, I feel like I actually learned a lot. So thank you.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Enjoy your evening. I hope you have a great bottle of wine, and I hope you all tune in soon. We're going to have Chef Mark back next month, maybe some summer wines or, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
All right.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you all.